This section that we're going to be doing is talking about solving literal equations. We've been solving equations. We've been solving for x, solving for y. We've already been doing that. When it says literal, it's just saying when they actually just give us an equation without any numbers, we can solve things for any letter. A lot of times when you use it in science. When they're telling you, the science teachers, I think, are telling you guys more to solve it for different letters. And here, I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So when we're talking about it, it says we've used many literal equations in mathematics. For example, area equals length times width. Well, if they give us the area and they give us the length, we can move the equation around to figure out what the width is. And that's what we're going to talk about. Other ones, when they talk about literal equations, they give us volume. Volume is length times width times height. P equals 2 times L plus W. That's perimeter. A lot of times we use 2L plus 2W instead of it written like this. Y equals mx plus b. Well, that's the slope-intercept form. ax plus by equals c. There's the quadratic standard form equation. And then the Pythagorean theorem. So, and it's just a difference in the way that teachers teach it, like especially in different subjects. What we've done before is we take the values. When they give us like the length and the width, we plug it in. And then we solve from there. A lot of times your science teachers are telling you, okay, well, if we need this one, let's move everything around. And so if we need to find the length, move it all around so that you get L equals, and then plug it in. Some of y'all are still looking at me like, what? This is what I mean. Okay. We actually solved little equations when we changed an equation from standard form to slope-intercept. When doing so, we are rearranging terms to solve for y, meaning that there's more than one letter inside in the equation, and we're moving it around. See, because right here, when we have it in standard form, we subtract 3x from each side, divide by 2, and we get it set equal to y. That's when we move it so that it's in slope-intercept form. We do this so that we're able to graph it. So here's just a reminder of what we already know how to do. So right now, let's write this down on our paper. 9x plus 3y equals 15. Let's solve the following equation for y. Well, when we're solving for y, what's the first thing we've always had to do? Get rid of the x's, move the x's to the other side. So you would have subtracted 9x from each side. And then you get 3y equals negative 9x plus 15. Now what do you do to solve for y? Divide by 3. So now I get y equals negative 3x plus 5. Now, why don't I pause for a second and you go ahead and do this one. I'll give you just a couple minutes to do this one. Do B, please. So on this one, the first thing we needed to do was get rid of the x's. So I'm going to move this 1x over here to the right, but I have to subtract x from each side. I get negative 4y equals negative x plus 28. Divide by negative 4. Right here, you get y equals. This is negative 1 divided by negative 4, which is 1/4 x minus 7. That's what you should have gotten. Now, It says we can solve a literal equation for any variable by performing the inverse operation than what is in the original equation. Okay, wait, some people are like, inverse operation, what does that mean? When we have things like 2x plus 3y equals 8, when we went to move the 2x to the other side, what do? What do we put underneath there? Negative 2x. That's the inverse operation, meaning that because this is positive, to move it to the other side, I do the inverse. So I subtract 2x from each side. Then when I get 3y equals negative 2x plus 8, then to do the inverse operation again, well, what did we do next? What do we do next? Divide by 3. This says times, the opposite is to divide. So I divide everything by 3. That's what it means by inverse operation. So the reason why you do it, there's a lot of words on this page, but here's what it's saying. Suppose you are an inside sales representative for a drainage pipe manufacturer. In order to help your customers, you must find the diameters of drainage pipes when you are given the circumference. You decide to set up a computer spreadsheet to find the diameter of any pipe, but you need an equation in the form of D equals for this purpose. So when you talk about circumference is pi times the diameter. Well, to be able to put it in a spreadsheet, to make the spreadsheet in Excel actually do all the math for you, you have to set it up so that it is D equals. So really, when you're looking at this, I'm trying to get D by itself. Well, what's with the D? The pi, right? It says pi times D. The opposite times is divide. So you divide each side by pi. So now your diameter, you just take your circumference divided by pi. Okay? To undo pi times D, you divide both sides by pi. Here's what it will mean. All right, write this down on your paper or your board right here. D equals RT. Distance equals rate times time. It wants us to solve for T. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to move it. How can you undo R times T? Divide. So what all that big word, the last one, meant was this. I need T by itself. It says R times T. The opposite of times is divide. So I will divide each side by R. So now I'm going to get D divided by R equals, look right here, R over R, these cross out. It equals T. So I've got T by itself. T equals distance divided by rate. That's what it's asking you to do, is just to rearrange it so T is by itself. So this next one, which is just exactly the same as circumference times, for the circumference, which is diameter times pi, but this one is with the radius. So I've got circumference equals 2 pi r. It wants us to solve for r. Now the hint that they're trying to tell you is this. How can you separate 2 pi from r? I need r right here. What's attached to it? The 2 and the pi, right? When they're all there together, what operation is that? Is that addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? It's multiplication. To get r by itself, you have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is what? Divide. So you will divide both sides by 2 pi. So I get C divided by 2 pi equals the radius, equals r. And that's all you're doing, is moving it around to get r by itself. Look at this one on number 3. Sometimes we need to add or subtract first. And it says perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. Solve for L. And when you start and you think about it, what is on the same side as L but is not actually touching it? Just like when we are solving for Y and things like that, I want the L by itself. But the first thing I have to move, you always do addition and subtraction first. Do you see a plus or minus over there? I see a plus 2W. So the opposite of plus, the inverse operation, subtract 2W from each side. So now I get the perimeter minus 2W equals 2L. Now, how do I get L by itself? What's with the L right now? The 2. It says 2 times L. What's the opposite of times? Divide. So you're going to divide everything by 2. So my equation is going to be the length equals perimeter minus 2W, all divided by 2. All we're actually doing is rearranging the letters and numbers to get a different letter by itself. Try number 4. Try number 4. On number 4, oh golly gee willikers here. On number 4, the hint they give us is, how can you get the x's to the other side? Well, if I want y by itself, I subtract ax from each side. Why am I subtracting? That ax right there is positive. So then these cross out, and I get by equals c minus ax. Now, what's with the y that I need to get rid of? The b. It says b times y. What's the opposite of times? Divide. So I'm going to divide everything by b. And you get y equals c minus ax divided by b. All right. Now look here. It says the formula A equals P times 1 plus RT gives A the total amount of money in a savings account, where P is the amount of money deposited, R is the interest rate, and T is the time in years. You can solve for R in this equation to find any interest rate when you know the values of the other variables. So it's asking you basically in this, it's saying, what do you need to do to solve for R? The first thing you do is distribute the P. Well, what does that mean? Remember, that means hippity-hoppity distributive property right here. Okay? And that's what they do here. P times 1 is P. P times RT becomes PRT. Then it says isolate PRT. Well, what does that mean? That means to subtract this P from each side to get PRT by itself. Then it says isolate R. Right here, to get R by itself, you get rid of the P and the T. And then you come up with your equation right here. With this equation, what this is saying is, if I know the amounts that I start with, how much time I want to save my money, you can figure out interest rates. You say, well, I don't care about interest rates. Well, you do when you're a grown-up and you have to try and figure out your money or how much you have to pay on credit cards. or how much you're going to get in a savings account. Now, look at this one. Ready? Write this down. Write this down. Now, it says solve for n. What was the first thing I did in that last one? I distributed. I have a number outside the parentheses right here, so you are going to distribute. Hippity hoppity. So we're going to have S equals 180 times n, 180n. Now 180 times negative 2 is what? Negative 360. I'm trying to get n by itself. From here, we have to do addition and subtraction first. So what do I see for addition and subtraction? I need n right here by itself. On the right side of the equation, do you see a plus or a minus? I see a minus 360, so I need to do the opposite, and I need to add 360 to each side. I get S plus 360 equals 180n. I need to get n by itself. What's next to it right now? The 180, and it says 180 times n. What's the opposite of times? So divide each side by 180. So I get S plus 360 divided by 180, and that equals n. That's what I'm doing. I'm just rearranging it to get n by itself. Maybe looking with what I have on number 5, try number 6. Do the same steps I used on number 5 and try number 6. All right, so on this one, first thing you were supposed to do, we're trying to solve for W. We need to do the, whoa, it's still moving. Okay, do the distributive property. So I get P equals 2L plus 2W. Whoa, nice W. Okay. Now, angry right now? Me? So I want to get W. I'm going to erase. I'm going to put the W in red. All right. So now, what do I need to move? The 2L. So I need to get the 2L over here to the left. But since it's a positive 2L, subtract 2L from each side. I get P minus 2L equals, that's a 2 right there, 2W. Now, what's with the W? 2, and it says 2 times W. The opposite of times? Divide. So I get P minus 2L divided by 2 equals W. Okay, I know it's a lot for a Monday, huh? No one wants to hear your complaining, my friend. All right. Now look, here's the last different type that we're going to talk about with the steps. It says the volume of a cone can be found with the formula V equals pi r squared h divided by 3. We can solve for h in this equation to find any cone's height when we know the value of the other variables. The only thing different on this one is the very first thing you do is get rid of that denominator. The easiest thing is to get rid of the denominator. And what does that mean? When right here this says divided by 3. What's the opposite of divide? Multiply. So, whoa. You're going to multiply each side by 3. And the reason why you do that over here is so that these go away. Now, well, I'm going to sneeze. All right. So now actually what you have is 3v equals pi r squared h. If I want h, let me put this one in red. I want h by itself. What's on the same side of the equation with the h? The pi and the r squared. Is it adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing right now? It is multiplying. What's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So now to get h by itself, well, come on. You would divide by pi r squared. Then your equation now is set up with h by itself. What does that mean to do? Look at this one. The hint they give us, I do that all the time. Okay. The hint they give us is how do you eliminate the r in the denominator? I want e by itself. It says e divided by r. What's the opposite of divide? So multiply by r to each side. By doing that, I get ri equals. What happens to the r's here? They disappear. They go away. And it equals e. Now it's set up. It's already there. I've got it solved for e. E equals ri. The difference is, and where some of you guys are getting confused, is a lot of times just because they have all these letters. For example, if I had y equals x over 3. If I had this equation and I said, let's solve for x, let's get x by itself, you would multiply each side by 3. That makes these 3's disappear. You would get 3y equals x. Equals x. That's what we're doing right here. The difference is when it's, for whatever reason, when it's all letters, you guys, your brains get confuzzled. Okay? Yes, that's my word, confuzzled. So let's look at this one down here. My hint says, how do you eliminate the denominator? The first thing we want to do is to get rid of this denominator right here. So it says divide by n. What's the opposite of divide? Multiply each side by n. So I get n times d, so n d equals. These n's cross out, and you get c minus s. What do I need to do to get the c by itself? What's on the same side with the c? Well, it's supposed to be a negative s. So add s. I know my s's look like 5s. Add s to each side. So now I get nd plus s equals c. That's your answer. You use letters because you don't always know what the numbers are, and to put them actually to program them into Excel files and other things to generate your numbers. It's easier if you have one set equation and then you plug in different ones. I'll try in the next few days to kind of to explain why. Okay. It is difficult for you guys to think like this because it's more of an abstract thinking, and it comes with maturity and practice and age. Okay. All right. So here, ready? I've got t equals 5x y divided by z. Okay? Now, my instructions are going to say to solve for x. All right. So that means I want to solve for this x. I'm going to write over it in blue and make it a little easier to see. The first thing I need to do, whenever you see a denominator, you've got to get rid of it. So how do we get rid of that z? Times it by each side by z, right? Okay. Now, zt, when you multiply it, right? Now, these z's cancel each other out. You get 5x y. What's on the same side with the x? The 5 and the y, right? Is it adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? You see a minus sign right here? They're all multiplying together, right? To get rid of them, you have to do the opposite. What's the opposite of multiplying? Divide. So divide everything by 5y. So now I get zt divided by 5y equals x. Now, if I told you, see, the thing is, why do we do this? Well, now if I tell you z is 10, t is 5, and y is -1. Can you take these numbers and plug this in here and solve for x? What did I say z was? 10. What did I say t was? 5 over 5 times y. What's y? -1. And that equals x. Well, what's 10 times 5? 50. So that becomes 50 divided by -5. So x equals -10. If you plugged all these numbers in, if you knew all those numbers, but you plugged it in up here, you still have to move everything around to find your answer. Okay, it's another way of trying to solve equations. And I find that a lot of times, I don't know if this year your science teachers in biology, it might have been more when we were doing IPC. And when you do chemistry, you'll do more with equations. You guys tell me in biology, did you do a lot with equations this year? Okay, so it's not till next year. And they move some things around. But the science teachers, we had struggles with it, saying, no, what we teach you guys to do is plug in the numbers, then move it around. But the science teachers, especially when you're trying to figure out how many milligrams or pieces, parts of solutions go into your experiments, they want you to move the equations around first before they plug in numbers. Okay. All right, here we go. Ready? I want you guys to write these down. Number 1. P equals IRT. I want you to solve. Oh, nice handwriting here. IRT. I want you to solve for R. Number 2. Okay, there are 4 problems right here. I want you to try and do those right now, please. Looking at the first one, it says P equals IRT, solve for R. Well, I need this R right here. What is on the same side of the equation attached to it? I and T. And what operation? What's happening right now? They're multiplying. So to get rid of them, what's the opposite? You're going to divide by IT, by it. Well, you get P equals, that looks like a pi, but it's supposed to be I and T equals, these cancel each other out, and then R is all by itself. And that's the answer right here. The next one, it says to solve for X. There's my X. What's the first thing I need to do to get X by itself? You have to do the addition and subtraction first. It says minus 8. What's the opposite of minus 8? Plus 8. So you add 8 to each side. You get y plus 8 equals 5x. Now what do you do to get x by itself? Divide by what? Divide by 5 on each side. So you get y plus 8 divided by 5 equals x. That's your answer. I think that was the last one. Let's see. Number 3 was this one, right? It said solve for y. Here's my y. Whenever you see a denominator, you've got to get rid of that first. So the first thing you should have done was multiply by 5 to each side. Because that makes these two cancel. You get x plus y equals 40. You still got to get y by itself. How do I get rid of that x? Subtract x from each side. Y equals 40 minus x. That last one right here, it says solve for b. Here is the b. Now, whenever I said you had a denominator, what are you supposed to do? Get rid of it first, right? It says we divided by 6, so the opposite of that is to multiply each side by 6. You get 6a equals little a plus b minus c. These 6's canceled out. Now, I need to get the c to the other side. It says minus c. What's the opposite of minus c? Plus c. I'm going to add. That's the inverse operation that they talked about. They just use those big words. 6 big A plus c equals, these c's cancel out, a plus b. Now I've got to get this a over to the other side. So I have to subtract a from each side. Now I have 6 big A plus c minus a equals b. All you're doing is rearranging things.